You're making one right decision today. You're listening to Handcuffs and Sage.
Three badass moms bringing you all the true crime and paranormal your heart desires.
I'm Red.
I'm Timo.
I'm Dre. And don't let your kids listen. Seriously, just don't.
Hi, everybody. It's Handcuffs and Sage. Woo!
Woo, woo! We are back.
This is Red.
Hey, this is Timo.
And this is Dre.
How is everybody today?
Well, it's been a crazy week. We're kind of welcoming back into the world now of different things, which is kind of fun, but kind of scary too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were just talking about at the nail salons opening up, and I can't freaking wait. I'm like a little kid waiting for Christmas. I want someone to tell me to go pick my color.
Yes.
Yes.
Can't wait. So that's a good thing. Like, there are some things to look forward to, I guess. Things opening up and hopefully getting better. I'm trying to stay positive.
Yeah. I went shopping for the first time in 3 months. That wasn't on Amazon. I took my son and we went to Old Navy because whenever I want to do some shopping and I'm broke, I just go to Old Navy because I have my card. And it's like, I still have that like, oh, it's not real money mentality. It's like, whatever. So we did a lot of shopping. We spent a lot of money.
Oh, that's good.
But
That's
I got
good.
like
It's therapeutic.
summer clothes. I got summer clothes. And yeah, so it was fun. I had a little outing with him, and he's my son. That's like the daughter I never had. So it's fun shopping with him.
Yeah, I think it's good because it's money you would have spent anyway, and then it's so therapeutic and just like get it done. I think Ricky went to the mall with some friends, and he was like, "Mom, like when I say some friends, I mean one person." And their mom, and he was like, "Mom, I need summer clothes. Can I buy some?" And I was like so heartbroken because I'm like, he's growing up and he doesn't want my input anymore.
Yeah.
So that was like sad, but cool at the same time. Awesome.
Yeah.
So
He's
he
turning
came back
into a
and
little adult.
He says like, I spent all of my money and I only got this, and I'm like, yeah, that's why I should be there.
Yeah.
But it's okay because we haven't spent any money while we've been home, so it's okay.
I know.
We'll survive. Yeah.
I haven't gotten gas in my car since like March. And I'm and I'm finally over like half a tank because we drove to Stevenson Ranch and back. And then Miss Amy's, I had to go take Miss Amy yesterday to go pick up one of their cars. It was being fixed. So I got to drive down to Newhall and back. That was cool. But
that's exciting.
I know, right?
It's like a whole 17-minute drive.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Miss Amy, so she had like a little mishap at her place of business, and they accidentally ordered like the wrong kind of wine or something. She had 100 100 boxes of like this Moscato, the clear Moscato, and they were like 5-liter boxes, right? So I was like, you know what? I have a lot of friends that like some liquor, some wine. So I just put out a couple feelers, and I was like, all right, well, work people, right? Easy. I like sold like 25 boxes or something. And then she was like, thank you so much. Like, that was really helpful. And then she was like, I still have like 70 boxes. And I was like, okay, give me
that much?
She had 100 boxes total.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
like Trey, you're like an adult Girl Scout, like totally selling, but it was for wine. And
that was awesome. Mm-hmm.
You definitely earned a badge in this situation, a badge with a wine glass on it.
So, short story, I sold all the wine.
Yay!
Yeah.
Good job.
So like Saturday I was delivering and I got to see friends from high school, and I was like, yeah, cool, you ordered 28 bottles of water, boxes of wine. It was amazing. But yeah, we worked it, man.
Did you guys hand money like through a window and have it be like a whole deal?
No, they Venmo'd me, so yeah.
Well, that's no fun.
So new times.
You should be in sales, girl. I love it.
I know. I was before, but I really like nursing more.
I guess you like helping people. Whatever.
I guess. Yeah.
Everyone has their thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Well, it was a good week, and I'm excited for the next coming week. Our family should be going on a fishing trip, and I can't freaking wait. I can't wait. I love fishing so much. I love the calmness of it all.
Do you guys go to
Yeah.
like a lake and fish?
Yeah, we go up to June Lake.
Oh, and do you go out on a boat or do you stand on the shore?
We do shore fishing.
Oh, okay.
We could rent a boat, but I don't think we're going to. But I have to tell you, one of the best days of my life was up there on Virginia Lake. And it was a culmination of like perfect moments. And I will always think of this day of like, it was just me, my husband, my 2 kids. And it was perfect temperature. You throw the line in, you're getting a fish back. There's like a little deer next to us, you know,
What?
eating a little bit of grass. There's some snow
Oh.
in the mountains. And all of a sudden it started drizzling just enough to like pull the fish all up at the top. And it was like this
Wow.
beautiful moment. You know how you all have those moments that you just don't want to end? It
Yeah.
was just something else. And so I always think about that day, like one of my favorite days.
That's so fun. You guys go swimming in the lake too? I mean, it's probably freezing right now, but
Oh, it'd be so freaking cold. No
Yeah.
way. No.
I
Red
love
doesn't
Virginia
do cold.
Lakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Virginia Lake is beautiful. Have you ever hiked above it?
I haven't. When my husband was there last time, he said that people were hiking up and like snowboarding down or skiing down that mountain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's
And we had
cool.
never seen that before. Yes. It's
Yeah.
actually, Virginia Lake is my back screen on my computer.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay. I think I've
So
seen
I
that.
always look at it. I go,
Memories.
I miss you.
It's funny because when we met, I mean, Red and I have so much crazy stuff in common that we didn't know about. And so like the June Loop was another one that was like a little surprising because people don't know about the June Loop very often, or they don't know even the names of the lakes, like Convict Lake and Twin Lakes.
Yes.
You
The
know,
Twin
so,
Lakes. Yes. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, so excited.
I'm so jealous.
All right, so let's start with some true crime. Okay. I think that's a good way to go always.
Cool.
So I'm actually going to be talking about a story that is heartbreaking and very emotional. And it's just I'm so sorry.
Make me cry.
We all need to buckle up and get ready for this journey because it's a roller coaster of sadness. Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe Dre's heard of it. You probably haven't, but we'll see. This is called the Freeway Phantom story. Have you ever heard of the Freeway Phantom?
Nope. I don't think so.
Oh, it's so sad, you guys. So sad.
Oh no. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Bring
All right.
it.
Let me
Grab
take
your
a drink.
tissues.
Get some tissues and some Red Bull because we're about to do this shit.
Okay. Oh, great. All right.
Okay, so this starts in April 1971 in Washington, D.C., where a 13-year-old girl, Carol Spinks, goes missing. And there's a picture of Carol that you can see, and she is just too cute, okay? She is so cute. And she has a twin sister, Carolyn, and they come from a big family. I think they said there was 8 kids. And Carolyn and Carol are obviously very close. And Carolyn, the sister, is talking about how her and her sister used to like play pranks, of course, on people because they were twins, just always mixing it up and messing with people. But Carol was actually very quiet and very timid. And their older sister, Evander, said that they used to call her Bebe because she was just so sweet and cute, you know, and quiet.
Aww.
Yeah. So on April 25th, their mother says, hey, I'm going to go visit a friend in Maryland. Don't you guys leave this apartment. And she was very strict about this rule. Okay. Don't leave the apartment. And you don't even open the door for Jesus, she would say. Okay. You're not going to do it. Okay. So the mom leaves and there's a knock at the door and it's their older sister, Valerie. Okay. And the girls are telling Valerie, you better get out of here because mom said we could not leave this apartment and you are not coming in. Right. They were taking their mom very seriously.
Right.
So Valerie doesn't leave. She just starts, keeps banging on this door, and sweet Carol said, okay, I will go to the store for you, Valerie, because that's what she wanted. So
Mhm.
Valerie wanted Carol to go to the store and, you know, get some like TV dinners, things like that. And so she gave her, I think it was $5. And Carol said, you know, she would go and be right back. She was going to go to a 7-Eleven. And on the map, it's very close. It's not actually a very far walk, okay? So Carol starts on her way. And Carol runs into her mom.
Oh, shit.
Oh no.
And Carol's
Whoops.
mom, Alantine, said to Carol, oh, you are in so much trouble. You broke this rule. You can finish, you know, what you're doing, go to the store and come right back home. And then you are in trouble, right? Because I told you to stay home. And Alantine watched her daughter go towards the store. Okay. So then later, the older sister, Evander, goes to the sister Valerie's house and says, you know, has Carol come back? Did Carol like bring that food to you? And Valerie said, she's not back yet. Like, she didn't come back. So people are like, okay, where's Carol? Because she should have been back by now. Okay.
Mm.
So Evander, the older sister, she walks to the store, and the guy at the store said, oh, she got her food and she left. Right, so she should have been home by now. Alantine, after she goes and visits her friend in Maryland, gets home and Carol still isn't home. So Alantine calls the police, okay? She calls the police, and the police basically say to her, oh, she probably just ran away, right? And let me tell you, when you're frantic and you're looking for your kid, you don't want the police to put you off in any kind of way. And that's definitely what they did. They basically said she probably just ran away. So what they did is they pulled a search party together, and they were looking everywhere for her. Neighbors, friends, right? They're all coming together to look for Carol. So 6 days later, on May 1st, a body is discovered. And we meet Romaine Jenkins, and I think she's an amazing woman. And she is a supervisor in the homicide unit. And the body is found at the rear of St. Elizabeth's Hospital. There's marks all over the hands and the neck, and it looks like this body or person was strangled. The kids woke up to hear their mother screaming because she was notified that this was Carol.
Oh.
So in the coroner's report, they also state that she was sodomized and choked. This little 13-year-old girl.
Oh no.
No.
So as I said before, this body was found 6 days after she had gone missing, right? And there was undigested food in the stomach, which means she was held for a while. She was held with somebody for a while and fed, right? Didn't just happen. So then we meet Jim Tranum, from the Metro Police Department. He looks like a really nice guy. And he's talking about how she was alive while she was missing, and can't imagine, you know, what she went through during that time. So the DC Metro Police start going through the neighborhood, talking to everybody, trying to see if they can find out what happened. And they find a woman and her daughter had seen Carol leaving the grocery store holding a bag. And so they know that she was taken near her house, right?
Right.
So, I mean, in my mind, that's then maybe someone who was a part of the neighborhood or knew the neighborhood or felt comfortable in the neighborhood, right? So during May 1971, which is like right after this happened, it was a really hard time in DC. There was Vietnam protests going on. There were thousands of people in DC. They were doing like makeshift like camps to detain people, to hold people. And so the police were overrun with all this protest activity. And it was really frustrating for Romaine, the supervisor, because she wanted to go and follow up on Carol's homicide, and she was stopped by her supervisor saying, "Oh no, everyone is doing protests right now. We're not doing anything else." And so this homicide is just sitting there not being looked at, which is, I'm assuming, incredibly frustrating for her family, right?
Yeah.
The family said that they felt like the case had been buried, that it was not important to the police. And 2 months later, another girl goes missing.
Wow.
So this is Darlenia Johnson, and she was 16 years old. She went to go to work, and she never came home, right? So her mom filed a missing person report, and the mom started getting these weird phone calls, right? So she'd pick up the phone and she would just hear breathing on the phone, right? And she thought maybe it was Darlenia, right? She was hoping. But then on the last call she got, she heard a man's voice, and he said to me, "I killed your daughter," and hung up the phone.
Oh my God.
So Darlenia's mom called the police, of course, to tell them that she had gotten this call, right? She had hoped it was Darlenia, but it was this man. And they said that they had no way to trace this call. There was no technology back then to find out who had been making that call. So something that I find incredibly upsetting about this story is somebody was driving and was on the freeway and spotted what they thought was a body. Okay. So the witness called into the police and said, "Look, we found this body, right, on the side of the road. Come out." Right. So the police came out, didn't get out of their car, said that they didn't see a body, and drove away. Okay.
Wow. Great police work, guys.
So 11 days later, that same eyewitness was like, "I wonder what happened with that body I found." Went back out and was like, "Oh my God, this body is still here." And called the police back out. And because the police waited, this body was in advanced decomposition. You couldn't even get anything from this body. You didn't know how this body was killed or anything. It's awful. So they think it's Darlenia, right? And the only way they can figure out if it's her is the clothing that the body is wearing is the same clothing in the missing persons report, because they waited so long to go and do their job. Yeah. So the body was found in the same location as Carol. Okay. So these girls went to the same school, didn't know each other though. So same neighborhood, and bodies left in the same location. Both were barefoot. Okay. And the police are saying not connected.
Oh, come on.
What?
They're not connected.
All right.
When you hear things like this, you're like, what?
Like, who hired these guys?
I didn't do their interviews. Okay. So 8 days later, after Darlenia is found, another girl goes missing. Okay. So this is we're talking to, her name's Bertha Crockett, and she's talking about Brenda. And Brenda was a beautiful girl, and Bertha said she thought she was going to be like an actress or a model, and she just had like this charisma about her, and she had this beautiful dimple in her chin, and she loved church, and she was just a really good girl. And on July 27th, Brenda Crockett was sent to the store by her mother. She just wanted her to pick up some quick things, right, for later that day. And she didn't show up, right? So the mom goes to look for her, right? Why isn't she back? I'm going to go look for her. And at the time, Brenda is 10 years old, and Bertha, who's only 7, is at the house, and the phone rings, and Bertha picks up the phone, this little 7-year-old, okay? And on the phone is Brenda. And Brenda says, a white man picked me up, but he said he's going to send me home in a cab. And she's crying.
Oh,
She's
no.
upset. So then she gets off the phone. The phone rings again, and then the stepdad comes in and picks up the call, right? And it's Brenda. And he's saying, where are you? Tell me where you are. I will come and get you. You tell me where you are. And Brenda says that she thinks she's in Virginia, which is not, it doesn't make sense that she's in Virginia at this point, right? And then Brenda asks the stepfather, did mom see me? And the stepdad says to her, if she saw you, she would have you, right? Like, why is she asking me this? And Brenda is crying, and she sounds confused, and then she hangs up the phone. Okay. So then when the mom gets back, she contacts the police.
Wow.
So the next morning, little Bertha, 7 years old, wakes up to her mother screaming, this horrific scream. And the mom had just heard from the police that they found Brenda. So the day after she had gone missing, on July 28th, 1971, a hitchhiker found the body. Brenda was on her back. She had been sexually assaulted. It's just terrible. These are just little girls. They're just little girls, and they're all just being dumped and thrown on the side of a freeway. And it's just awful. It's just so scary to think about. And so the police decide to look at the calls, right, that the family had gotten, you know, thinking, you know, Brenda's made a statement that she was with a white man, making a statement that she was in Virginia. So then they felt like maybe it was scripted, right, that she was told to say these things, right? And so news reporters are coming out. A lot of the people in the neighborhood are saying that the news reporters were more interested than the police were interested in getting any information, right? So then on October 1st, a 12-year-old Nino Moshia, I know I'm saying that wrong, Nino Moshia, really cute girl, was sent to the store by her father. And
oh my God.
Yeah, she gets to the store, she leaves the store, and 2 hours later, her body is found.
Oh my God.
Raped and strangled. And the community is losing their minds, right?
Hey, Red, I have a question. I know DNA is like far from, you know, this time, but were they doing like rape kits at this time too, or was that not even being done back in the day?
Yeah, no, they were doing rape kits, but the way that they were checking it was not the same that we would be checking it today for DNA.
Oh, really?
Right.
So they didn't have like DNA, just like substances saved. Like, oh, damn. Okay. That's sad.
So they collected and kept everything, right, that they found, but they couldn't test it, of course, like we would be testing for things today.
Okay.
Right. So the community is pissed, and I don't blame them, right? Their girls are being attacked. And the police, hold on to your butts here, still don't think they're connected.
Oh my God.
Oh, come on.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Stop.
So all from the same neighborhood.
What?
Right? All dumped on the side of the road from certain freeways. All barefoot. Raped and strangled. But you know what? I don't think they're connected. So the police because they have this thing, you know, on their hands, and the media is kind of like, you know, kind of coming at them. The FBI gets involved, right? And the FBI, you know, connects with the police, and they're like, we're going to work on this together. And by the way, they're connected, you dumb fucks. That's basically what the FBI said to the police. Like, hello.
Oh my God. Like, what the hell?
Uh-huh. So then we meet this really sweet man. His name is Barry Colbert, and he's part of the FBI, and he was part of the investigation at the time. And they looked at all the cases, all were strangled. They had all these connections, and 3 out of the 4 girls had black hairs found, like in their clothing and underwear, and they felt like the suspect was a black male. So if it was a black male, he might have told Brenda to say, I'm with a white man, right? To throw them on. Now, this was DC's first serial killer, okay? So
scary.
It was a big deal, and obviously that's probably why the FBI got, you know, involved in it also. So on November 16th, 1971, 18-year-old Brenda Woodard's body was found. She was raped, strangled, and stabbed.
Oh, geez.
And what's awful about this story is that the mom had been like going past and kind of like saw a commotion, and they said that they had found like a male's dead body nearby, but then she like had seen like a wig like on the side of the road, and she like couldn't get it out of her mind, like this wig. And then she got home and she got a call, and it was actually her daughter. It wasn't this male that had been found, which is awful. So
she saw her daughter.
She didn't see the body. She heard that they had found this body, right?
Oh my God.
So found on Brenda was like this crushed velvet coat, and it was like thrown over her. And in the pocket, there was a note. Okay. The note said, "This is tantamount to my insensitivity to people, especially women. I will admit the others when you catch me, if you can." The
Jesus.
Freeway Phantom.
So it's almost like a Jack the Ripper kind of thing. Like he's like, you know, like taunting the police, like, you know, come and get me.
Oh God! Like this guy must have felt like he could do whatever he wanted.
Typical serial killer.
It's awful, but especially in this situation, you know, in DC, where you have this black neighborhood that felt like the white police weren't helping them, and they weren't. They weren't. Right.
That's
so
horrible.
This guy felt like he could just do whatever he wanted.
Oh yeah. And he was doing it.
Yeah.
Horrible.
So this is all over the news, and the neighborhood, the family, the community, everyone is, these little girls are scared, right? These little girls are like, this could happen to anybody and nobody cares. So it was just awful. So Romaine Jenkins, she was saying that everyone was phoning in suspects, right? They were looking at everybody. They were looking at priests. They were looking at police officers. They were looking at doctors. Like nobody was safe. They were looking at everybody. And they decided to take a look at the note, and they have a handwriting expert look at it and do a comparison. And they found that the writing was actually that of Brenda, right? So they feel like the suspect had Brenda write out this note, right? Because it's in her handwriting.
Yeah.
And I thought this was really interesting. They said that the writing showed no stress, right? So when you're writing a note like under duress, they can tell, right? Because it's a little sloppier. There's like hesitation, so right? And this had none of that. So they felt like maybe she actually knew the killer, right? That the killer had her write the note under, you know, a different idea of what he was actually going to do with it, right? So I thought that was really interesting that they could tell by the note that she wasn't under stress at that point.
Wow.
Also, like, I feel like if he told her, like, oh, don't worry, you know, I'm just going to do this, and, you know, I'm not going to hurt you. I just need you to write this note. So he was probably really manipulative.
Right.
And
Sure.
like, yeah.
Absolutely.
As usual, charismatic and likable.
Right. So I thought that was very interesting. The whole handwriting thing is very interesting to me. Okay. So then all of a sudden the murders stop, right? So in the quick succession, we had all these bodies, right? All these girls going, and then it stops, right? And there's media attention everywhere on this story. So the police are like, well, maybe the media attention got so much that he's like, I better cool it, right? Or I better stop. But then 10 months later, on September 5th, 1972, 17-year-old Diane Williams goes missing. So her sister Patricia is talking about her and how Diane was just, you know, beautiful, and she just was this amazing woman, and she was just kind of like getting into her own, you know, 17, and she had her first boyfriend, and she was going to go meet him. His name is James, and the parents said that she could go, you know, spend time with James, but she had to be back by 10 p.m. Right? So James said that he actually took her and made sure she got on the bus to get home at that time, saw her, but she never got home. So got on the bus, didn't go home. So the next morning, Diane's body is found on the side of 295 southbound. The body is strangled. She had white tennis shoes on with the name on the heels, Diane. So she had her name written on the back of her shoes. Do you guys remember doing that, like as kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, her name was on the back of her shoe. But there was no sexual assault. So they didn't feel like she was sexually assaulted, but they did find semen on the clothes. Right. So then they thought, oh, well, maybe this is from, you know, she saw her boyfriend, right, the night before, and they're 17, right? But the boyfriend said, no, they didn't do anything like that. So it wasn't his. So then they thought, okay, well, maybe this is from the killer, right? And maybe he left some other things behind on the other clothes of the other victims. So then they pull all the clothing for all 6 girls, and they're looking them over, and they find that they all have this like green fiber on them, almost like a carpet from a car, like old school, right?
Right.
So then we hear about this guy named Robert Askins, and this guy is a bad dude. Okay. He had done a lot of horrible things, and so the police were looking at him as a suspect, that there was like some ties and things that he had done in cases before that were similar to things in this case, right? So before, he had victims like call and tell people that they were in Maryland when they weren't in Maryland. Just like, he had left notes before, you know, in other cases. And something that Robert said a lot, which is really weird, is tantamount, which is an odd word to say.
The same thing. It is, yeah.
But his friends, you know, people that knew him said he used it frequently, tantamount. And that was in that note. So they actually, the police go to Robert's home and they look through everything, and they couldn't find clues or anything to connect him in the house. So they move on, which I don't know. There's so many things for me personally connecting Robert, but they say that they can't connect him. So my mind was kind of blown at that point. So in 1974, a jailhouse snitch calls homicide detectives and says, you know, I know this person who knows all about this, and his name is Morris Warren. So they go and they, you know, talk to Morris to see what he knows. And at first he's like denying anything. He doesn't know anything. But then he goes, well, maybe I do know something about it. And for my information, I want to be released from jail, and I want the $10,000 reward that they have for this case, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the FBI is like, well, we don't know if he's like worth what he's saying. We don't know what he knows.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we take him on 2 ride-alongs to check like his credibility, if he's able to like actually give real information about things.
Mm-hmm.
So they do the first ride-along, and it's where Brenda and Darlenia's bodies were found. And he kept like mixing up who was who and what happened with what, right? So his information seemed off to them. So then they went on a second ride-along, and they're in the car, right, the police car, and the radio comes on. And on the radio, the news is saying, police are close to getting the suspect because of an informant helping them.
Oh, Jesus.
And Morris freaks out, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
people at the jail will be like, well, you're the one helping the cops, and you're a snitch, and now we got you, right? You don't want to be that person in jail. And so he's freaking out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course. So he stopped helping the police. He shut his mouth.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And then the police,
go.
right. So then the police like really looked into any information he had given them, and they found like it was completely incorrect anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So Morris had told the police that these girls were actually killed by this gang, this Green Vega gang. So at the time, multiple people were part of this awful gang where they drove this like Green Vega car, and they would pick up girls and kill them and dump them, and it was just awful. But then they realized that these girls couldn't have been part of that case because the Green Vega car didn't come out until spring 1972, and these all happened in 1971. So it wasn't connected. He was just giving bullshit information.
Mm-hmm.
And then they found letters where Morris is talking to other people in this Green Vega gang, where he basically is saying, yeah, I lied to the police. I told them this, this, and this. He was just full of it. He was just trying to get out of jail. So thanks, Morris, you dick. So police run out of leads, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we hear from FBI Barry Colbert, and he just, you can tell that this really affected him. This case really affected him. He said he couldn't understand how someone could have so much hate in him, so much that the way to feel better was killing little girls, and that this was very hard on him, right? That this really stayed with him. There was no closure for the families, right? Because nobody had been taken in. Nobody had been arrested for this. That older sister, Evander, would always stop by the police and be like, what's the update? Right, give me the update. And she was always brushed off and not taken seriously, which I'm sure is awful and painful to go through each time. So in 1987, Romaine Jenkins is promoted to sergeant. And she's like, I am going to speak for these girls, right? I'm in charge now. This is a case I care about, and we're going to freaking do it. So they do a reinvestigation, okay? And Romaine starts looking, into this case, like we're going to get started. And then she gets a huge, awful shock, and she realizes that all the evidence in the case was destroyed.
Oh, no.
All
what
gone.
The fuck?
God, that's heartbreaking.
Why? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Could it be an inside job?
No, I mean, who knows, honestly. So Romaine is obviously pissed, right? She's like, are you kidding me? She said to destroy evidence, the police actually have to go and present that case is closed, and the case wasn't closed. They shouldn't have been allowed to destroy it.
So from all the girls, all this evidence is gone.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So Romaine calls the FBI, right, and says, all the evidence is gone. Is there anything that you have, right, from the case that I can come and collect from you so I can start pulling something together, right? And they said, absolutely. So she goes and she actually walks into her room to look at like the FBI files. And on top of like all the what do you call them? What's the word I'm looking here for? Filing cabinets.
Okay.
I'm like, Post-its?
No. So she goes in the room with the filing cabinets, and on the top it actually says, do not destroy historical evidence, right?
Oh.
And Romaine is like, now why the hell can't the DC police do the same, right? Do not destroy historical evidence. So that really pissed her off. Like, the police just don't have it together here. And then she reaches out to the first detectives that had worked on the case, and they all gave her like their notes, like everything that they had from that time. Like, they were all trying to be like very helpful, right? So she could start putting something together because everything was gone. The FBI put like a profile together of the suspect. They felt like this was a loner, a psychopath, hated women. Maybe during the time was like 27 to 32 years old, had a day job, maybe knew the victims, was able to like gain their trust. And obviously they looked at like the dump sites because they felt like this was like the killer's comfort zones, right? That maybe he was very familiar with those spots. In 1994, Romaine Jenkins retires, and she's just so disappointed that she couldn't solve this case. Like, this is what she really wanted. But then City Hall came out and said, look, what happened here was wrong, right? And so now they made it so evidence now has to be kept for 65 years.
Wow.
Right? You can't just go and destroy all this evidence, right? So I wanted to give a list of the victims. So we have Carol Denise Spinks, Darlenia Denise Johnson, Brenda Faye Crockett, Nina Moshe Yates, Brenda Denise Williams, and Diane Denise Williams. And I think that there's something that comes up in Reddit a lot or other places a lot is there a connection here that a lot of the girls have the name Denise in their name. So we have 4 middle names of Denise, which is very interesting, right? So is there like something about that name that maybe tied them all together? But again, this case is unsolved, right?
Wow.
And these families will probably never know. And it just makes me sick that all that evidence was destroyed with what technology we have today.
Yep.
With all those hairs that had been found, connecting them, from the suspect, that just hurts my heart, and I feel so bad for these families. And this is a really hard one to talk about, but it should be talked about. And I just don't think these families got justice, and it's awful.
No.
Yeah. So that's the story of the Freeway Phantom. He's a total dick.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I hate that guy.
I really find a relation to Jack the Ripper in this. It's very similar to me because it stopped abruptly. So did Jack the Ripper, and he did the note kind of tempting the police. He was never caught. We never knew what happened. Yeah, it's so that's just so sad that if that evidence was saved for 65 years, who knows with today's technology what we could have found.
Oh, it's so sad. I just feel so bad for these families. And these were all just such cute, sweet, like little girls just running to the store. And we were all raised in a day and age where you just ran to I could walk down the street anytime to go do whatever, right? That wasn't even thought about. So I feel really bad for really bad for these families. So I'm sorry for doing a sad one. I'm so sorry.
Gotta talk about it.
I know. Gotta talk
Yeah.
about it. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks for that, Red.
Anytime, Timo. Okay, so maybe you have something on the lighter side.
Well, not really, but
No.
yeah, this will make you forget about that. So yeah, this is something scary. It's a true story. And
It's a true story.
It's a true story. Yeah, it really happened.
Are you just saying that?
No, I'm not saying it. I think most of my stories are true things.
Yeah.
That have
So
happened.
cute.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I was saying that, but okay. I'm gonna kind of do this like in like a secret way, because I know Dre is, once I start telling the story, I know Dre is gonna know what I'm talking about. Red, this is over your head. You'll have no clue what I'm talking about.
How do you know?
Okay.
I know a lot of shit.
Okay, maybe, but we'll see. But Dre, if you know, don't spit it out, because I want to save it for
Don't
the end.
spit it out, Dre. Don't ruin it for everyone. Always ruining it.
And I'm going to actually talk a little Spanish today, so I'll actually be doing
I can't wait.
some pronunciations. So yeah, we haven't done that in a long time, so that should be fun. And we're recording in the morning time, so none of us are drinking alcohol, so that should be fun. All right.
Is it noon yet? Hold on.
What time is it?
It is noon, and it's 5 o'clock somewhere. I have my iced tea because I'm just like exhausted. Just a side note, I have a rescue dog, and I have her puppy, and I don't know where my rescue dog came from. She was abused, I'm sure, but she's deadly afraid of fireworks, and assholes were doing fireworks around my house until like 3 in the morning. Yeah. So I had this poor chihuahua in my bed with me shaking. I didn't get any sleep last night. So yeah, I mean, and it's not going to end.
They've been doing fireworks a lot lately.
It's not going to end until like, it just keeps on going. Even after the 4th of July, it just keeps on going and going and going. And my dog.
You guys want to hear something crazy? So up where I live, you guys know, it's like way up above like Santa Clarita. It's not anywhere near like the regular, what people consider Santa Clarita. And so we don't get any of those fireworks at all. So I went to visit my brother. Zero. I went to visit my brother in San Fernando, and an M80 went off in the middle of the street, and I just shit my pants. I jumped out of my skin. It was crazy. And he's cracking up, and he was like, Santa Clarita got you.
SUV made you weak, girl. It made you weak.
They do them all the time. I remember just driving home on the 5 up north, and you would just see the fireworks going off on either side of the freeway. It's so bananas.
Yeah,
but,
it's beautiful, but yeah, it's loud and it sucks for the animals.
And in Santa Clarita, we can't be doing that stuff right now because there's so much brush everywhere, where these brush fires are just going to get out of control. So so that was my evening. So okay, so I'm going to tell you guys the story of Estefania, Gutierrez, Lazaro.
Ooh.
Okay. So we're going to Madrid, Spain in 1990. Concepcion Gutierrez gets a call from the hospital. They're telling her that her father is on his last straw. He's gonna pass away, and that if she wants to come and say goodbye, this would be the best time to do it. Now, they weren't getting along, the grandpa and the family. So Concepcion didn't really know if she should do it or not. He had dementia, and he was always quarreling with them about their economic status and this and that, whatever. But she said, all right, out of respect, I'm going to go and I'm going to take her children, and we're going to go say goodbye to grandfather. So they go to the hospital, and he's, kind of out of it and whatever. And he calls Estefania over to him, and he whispers to her, si no puedo hacerte daño en esta vida, lo haré en la próxima. So what that translates to is, if I cannot harm you in this life, I will do it in the next one.
Oh my God.
Right?
That's what he said on his deathbed?
Yes, to his granddaughter. Fuck that,
Yikes.
man.
Oh, he seems like a real nice guy.
Yeah.
I'm pissed.
So the grandfather dies, and they move on. So a little story behind, a little information about Estefania. She's 18 years old. Again, she lives in Madrid, Spain. Her father's name is Maximo Gutierrez Palominares. Sorry. Sorry, Maximo. And Concepcion Lazaro de la Iglesia. So I don't know if they were married. I don't know what the Spanish custom is about the names, but everybody seems to have like different names. So I'm not sure what's going on. She was the third of 6 siblings. These are her siblings' names. Cuerbobina, Marianela, Ricardo, Maximilian, and Jose Luis. So she's right in the middle of those 2, or those 6, I'm sorry. So in 1991, Estefania's friend, and actually he was a boyfriend of a friend of hers, was killed in a motorcycle accident.
Oh,
And
no.
you know, they were really heartbroken, and they decided to deal with the grief that they wanted to do a seance to see if they could talk to him. Now, Estefania kind of dabbled in the occult. That's a wide range of things that she could have been doing. She could have been reading magazines. She could have been reading books. She could have been doing the Ouija board, which she had quite a few times, and she actually did it by herself, which those of you that know about Ouija boards, you never do it by yourself. So she said, okay, let's do the Ouija board. So her and 2 of her girlfriends went to the restroom in their school, and they started to do the Ouija board. Now, they didn't have a planchette. They just had a glass that they turned upside down, and they were doing the Ouija board. And the teacher rushes in and catches them and flips the fuck out. So at that time, the glass breaks. The teacher grabs the Ouija board. She breaks it in half. And while this is going on, her friend notices that there was this weird smoke coming up from where the glass broke, and Estefania inhaled it. It went through her mouth and up through her nose.
Oh no!
I got the chills.
It was just kind of weird, right? They didn't really know what that was.
Okay, this was 91.
Yeah, 91.
Yeah,
before times.
you could before times. Okay, no mask.
And shit started happening. This is like the beginning of the beginning. So after this happened, strange things started happening to Estefania. And you know that's Stephanie in English, by the way. So, hey, Stephanie. Okay.
Oh my God. This is adorable.
Shut up. Yeah, I know. So she would go to these periods, like she would go into trances, like for 15 to 20 minutes at a time, where she was just kind of like sitting there, staying into space. And then she would like chuckle and laugh every once in a while.
Oh my God, I do the same thing.
Great.
Constantly. Right.
Well, look, there's more signs. She was very irritable. She was very touchy.
Got it. Yep. We have the same thing.
Oh no. Then she would have seizures.
Don't have seizures.
Okay, good. Her eyes would roll in the back of her head. She would foam at the mouth at times.
Oh my God.
And then she started having visions, and she said that she would see tall, silhouetted figures that were like black, almost like shadow people, like what I've told you in the past. And they actually would call her by her name, and they were kind of tempting her to come with them. And whenever somebody would ask her, what is this? She's like, it's evil, it's evil, it's evil. And then she started becoming very violent with her family. And she had almost like superhuman strength. And she would talk in a very hoarse voice that almost sounded like a man. And then in these rages that she would get into, she would start like barking like a dog at her siblings.
Weird.
And when she would do these attacks, she would black out, and then finally when she would come to, she would have no memory of doing it at all. So the parents were like, okay, we need to go find out what's wrong with her. So they took her to many doctors, many specialists. She was seen by many, and they just couldn't find what was wrong with her. She just had nothing wrong with her. They said maybe she has epilepsy. I guess at that time it was very hard to diagnose epilepsy, so they didn't know if that was it. She didn't really have all the symptoms. They thought maybe she was going through a psychotic break, which is possible. And then it lasted for months, this stuff, and doctors still couldn't find out what was wrong with her. And as it went on, it progressively got worse and worse and worse. So then they started thinking that maybe she's possessed. And maybe because of what the grandfather had said to her, maybe she's possessed by the ghost of her grandfather. So in August 1991, she entered the hospital because she was just basically just a wreck at that point. And she slowly went into a coma, and then she died.
Oh no, that's awful.
They don't know what happened. They have no idea what happened to her. So shortly after Estefania passes away, the family starts to get haunted, and shit starts to go down in this house. They hear, it started out as like little knockings coming from Estefania's room, and they would hear like voices in her bathroom. So they didn't lock the bedroom up because she shared the room with her sister, and then one of the other sisters went in there, but they basically locked up the bathroom and just used it as storage because they just didn't want to have anything to do with that. And then sometimes Concepcion would feel cold caresses like on her back and her arms sometimes, and she would kind of hear, she didn't know if she was hearing it out loud or in her head, but she kept on hearing like madre, mom. And in the room and in the bathroom, it was always freezing cold as well. Then they started hearing an old man laughing from their hallway, and then they started seeing those same black figures as Estefania started seeing. And then what happened, this is really scary, Maximo, the dad, was playing with his little son, Maximilian, and Maximilian was picked up and thrown across the room. Yeah. And they also had a few little poodle dogs that they had. Their dogs were picked up and thrown as well.
So this is what I want to know. Like, if you have someone that passes away like that, like Estefania. How do you say it?
Estefania,
right? She wasn't an evil person or anything like that. And can you have something come back right away after just passing and be able to move and do things like that, right? Do they think it was her doing those things?
I will touch on that in just a few minutes. So that was a really good question, because I will actually answer that in great detail.
Okay.
So the doors, cabinet doors would just open and close violently. Appliances would go on and off by themselves. The same stuff that we always hear about. Then the black figures, they would see, like, they'd shut off their lights at night to go to bed, and they would see these black figures like crawling over their furniture and stuff. Yeah. And then, right. Yeah. And then the two sisters that were in the room that used to be Estefania's, they actually saw a black figure come in, and it was like basically glued to the floor, and it was just like crawling like really slowly at them. Like, this shit like is fucking scary, man. Like, what the fuck was that? And then Maximo, the dad, would get touched in bed. Now this is so scary, but only on the parts that his blankets were covering. And you know how everyone's afraid, like if your foot's like hanging out under your blanket, like something's gonna grab you? That's what was happening to him.
Oh God.
Yeah. And then Concepcion, she was actually grabbed many times too. You know, she felt the caresses, but then she started getting grabbed where it actually hurt her, and you know.
No.
Yeah. So at this point, they're like, okay, they installed motion detectors like everywhere in the house, and those would go off all the time. They'd get up, search, and absolutely there's nothing there. It wasn't the dogs, it wasn't the kids. So they're like, what the fuck's going on? This is not something that's like human. So the family was all in the living room. They were hanging out one night, and I guess there was a hallway door from the hallway to the living room, and it burst open like super hard. And they're like, fuck that. So they all moved the couch to the door, and then I guess they had some type of marble ornament statue, something or other, and they put that on top of the couch just to add more weight. And they were like sitting there in like a panic, and all of a sudden this huge wind came through the house, blew open the door, moved the couch and the marble thing out of the way.
What?
And actually just made the whole house go into just like this array. It pushed them down, and
Crazy.
everything was just, and then what they found after that was sitting in the hallway was a picture that they had of Estefania, and the mother grabbed it and she was looking at it, and all of a sudden Estefania's face started burning, but it wasn't affecting anything else. It wasn't affecting the glass. It wasn't affecting the back of the frame or the frame. It was
Wow.
just
Just the
basically,
picture was on fire.
and there is an actual picture of this, so I will also post that on the site so you guys can see what that looks like.
Weird.
Yeah, they
Mm.
actually have proof of this.
I'm gonna start burning my photos to see if I can recreate this.
Jeez. No. So this lasted for months. So they decided to get some otherworldly help. They went to their religious figures. They couldn't get help. So they finally found some paranormal investigators and some psychics that wanted to help them out. So they came. And there was a very, the story just became very popular after this happened. They were on news reports, they were in newspapers, and you can actually see, when you see some of the documentaries, you can actually see like actual newspaper articles that are talking about this like crazy paranormal shit that was going on. So on October 14th, 1992, a news crew, a medium, and a paranormal investigator came to their house to try and cleanse it and do an investigation. And the medium said that she felt two entities in the home. One was a malevolent spirit. Now, malevolent is bad. And it was an older man. And she thinks that was the grandfather. And he was very negative, very threatening, bad. Then she also sensed the malevolent spirit, which is a good spirit. And she believes that was Estefania, and she was there to basically protect her family from the grandfather.
Crazy.
So two things are going on here. And she wanted to just make sure that the grandfather was not hurting the family. So they actually got an EVP from the bathroom. They did some investigations in the bathroom, and they got a girl's voice saying, "Cuidado con el abuelo. Cuidado con el abuelo," which is beware of grandfather. And it's actually, they have it on the news report. So there's a news reporter, she's totally in like the 90s suit, hair, she's talking in Spanish, and then they're showing clips of the investigation and everything. So they actually show the recorder sitting on the sink, and they're playing this over and over and over again. Then what happens is the medium claims that now she is possessed by the grandfather.
Oh no.
And she's sitting on the toilet, not using it, but sitting on the toilet. And
what if she was? That would be so awkward. You're like, just wait here. I'm almost done.
And the investigator guy is like grabbing her, and he's shaking her, and she's like, like she's doing all these weird faces, and she's like, ugh. And he's saying, vuelve, all right, vuelve, which is return or come back. So
volver.
Yeah. So, but he was saying vuelve. Sorry, guys. I practiced before we went live, and now I just lost it. So, with all this stuff that happened, nothing changed. It didn't help at all.
Mm.
So on November 27th, 1992 at 2 a.m., this was over a year after Estefania's passing, Maximo called the police, and he was hysterical. He said the paintings on the walls were spinning, the crucifixes on the walls were spinning. There was a dark figure at the end of their hallway that wasn't moving. It was just sitting there staring at them. And the chief inspector, Jose Pedro Negri, was called and put on the phone because nobody, basically, they're like, this is a crazy guy. We don't know what's going on. And he didn't really believe the guy either. So what Maximo did is he started handing the phone to every one of his kids, his wife. Tell him what you're seeing. Tell him what you're seeing. So each kid and everybody basically had the same story. So he's like, all right, we'll come. So Negri and 3 other cops went to the residence at number 8 Luis Marin Street. And they actually found the whole family sitting outside. Now, this is in the middle of November, and it was freaking cold. So
well, I would be too. I always wonder why families stay in the freaking house when all this stuff happens.
Yeah,
I'd be down.
Yeah, they're like, fuck this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of took that as, I think this is true. I think this is serious. So the whole family goes back into the house, and they sit around the dining room table, and he's interviewing them. And then there's this really heavy pine cabinet, and some of the cops were standing next to this pine cabinet, and it actually started to shake, and one of the doors flew open, and it freaked the cops out so bad they basically took out their guns and was like, thinking that somebody was jumping out at them. And when they realized that there was nothing there, they were like, what the fuck? So Maximo and one of the cops went into the master bedroom, but the other cops started getting really dizzy. They started getting really nauseated. I think they were freaked out. So they decided to go back outside. And as they were talking in the master bedroom, they heard this loud crash out on the balcony. And it sounded like either it was like a large rock or even like a frying pan. The balcony had tile on it. So it actually sounded like someone threw a frying pan or a big rock or something. And they went and investigated, and there was nothing there. So at the same time that this was happening, I guess there was another cop in the house, and I think he stayed in the dining room, and he started calling them, and this huge brown stain just showed up on the tablecloth on the table. It wasn't blood, it was like brown, and it was like slimy, and Negri kind of looked at it, and he kind of described it almost as like saliva. So there was this brown gooey stuff that just appeared on the tablecloth. So they also witnessed a crucifix fly off the wall, and one of the daughters grabbed it and hung it back on the wall, and then 3 scratch marks appeared right next to the crucifix on the wall, and they actually saw this happening with their own eyes. And so Estefania's bathroom, when Negri went in there, he actually felt so uneasy. He felt like he was being watched. It was very freezing in there. So he was kind of experiencing all the things that the family was experiencing. So after all that, Negri basically, he couldn't help. He didn't know what to do. But he did write up a big, huge report on it. And he stated that there's a series of phenomena that can't be explained, and the situation is of mystery and rarity. And this is the only time that police have recognized paranormal activity in an official report. And I'm actually going to read some of that report to you at the end here. But it's popularly known as the Villegas case. And as the family, after the cops came and everything, it basically didn't stop. They never found peace, so they sold their home and they moved. And at this time, there was a very popular Spanish paranormal show called Cuarto Milenio, which is called the Fourth Millennium. And they actually went to the family's house, the new home, and they interviewed them, and they kind of did an investigation, and they didn't find anything. So, you know, they felt good. They just sat and told their story, and, you know, they finally felt like at peace. But when the film went back into editing, the editors noticed some type of voice talking over the parents when they were being interviewed. And he listened and he listened, and he heard, "Nosotras no hemos comenzado," which means we have not started. So they're like thinking, oh shit, like something's going to go down with these people in the new home. But luckily, nothing happened. It just ended there.
So what would make it stop? Do you know what I mean?
Let me read you the police report. So this is basically a legal document that was you know, written in Spain from the police department. The whole report is in Spanish, but I got part of it that was translated. So it says, "We were found amidst a rare and mysterious situation that, being seated in the company of all the family, we could hear and observe a perfectly closed cabinet door, something which we verified afterwards opened suddenly in a completely unnatural way. This started a series of suspicious events that were witnessed by the chief inspector and the 3 other police officers present. While still in the state of shock, a powerful noise came from the terrace where we could prove that there was no one present. The suspicious events then increased in quantity and severity, taking the investigation up to an unexpected level. Moments later, they could hear and see that on the tablecloth on a small telephone table, there appeared a brown stain which Chief Inspector identified as drool. During the search of the rooms of the home, the phenomenon which we have been referencing was observed. A wooden crucifix rotated and was ripped off the wall. One of the daughters picked up the crucifix from the floor and attached it behind the door to the room. Suddenly and strangely, 3 scratch marks appeared next to the cross." So that's just a portion of the report. It goes on. It's a real live report. So in 2017, a movie came out on Netflix, and it was called Veronica. And this movie was said to be the most scariest movie you could ever see. And it was they were claiming on Twitter that people could not even
finish it.
Yeah, they couldn't finish it. It was just too scary. I didn't find that. I could watch it to the end. I think I've seen it like 3 times.
We're not concerned. Right.
Right.
No problem.
Yeah. So it's based. Veronica is based on Estefania's story. They're not alike. Little things happen that are the same, but the movie, he didn't want to do it. The producer and the director didn't want to do it exactly matching the story, so he kind of did his own thing. The girls play the Ouija board in the beginning. They are not caught by the teacher, but something crazy happens. There's no grandfather that died in the story. Her father actually passed away, so she was actually trying to contact her father with the Ouija board. And the friend that had died in the motorcycle accident, that was true. They were trying to contact him as well. And then there's just some crazy banana stuff that happens to the movie. It is really scary. It's not cheesy at all. It kind of just tells the story as it goes, and there's like a few parts that are kind of like but it's really low-key. It's in Spanish. There are subtitles, but I really thoroughly enjoyed the movie. But as for the family, it went away and read, like when you asked how, like why does it stop or whatever, many people that have discussed this on the documentaries, they believe that, of course, the grandfather was attached to the home, so that's why he was there. But then they want to know why Estefania was there, and they basically, she lived in the home. She wanted to protect her family from her grandfather. So they think that it was basically both of them were attached to that property, and as soon as they moved, they moved on, that they didn't follow them. So this was more of like a place being haunted rather than a person being haunted. So
I just want to know what Estefania did to her grandfather to get him
I
to
know.
be so hateful and
I
so
was thinking the same thing.
Jeez. Oh, what
Yeah.
did he do?
yeah,
Or
Oh,
what
but
he
because
hated
it-
she did, you know?
he hated the
Yeah.
whole family. But yeah, for some reason he said that to Estefania, and I'm thinking that maybe because she was kind of dabbling in the occult and dabbling in the Ouija board, that just kind of opened up. But I also wanted to tell you guys something about the Ouija board. I know Red's been wanting to play it many times. I've told her no. One of the main things is when you play the Ouija board and you do it the right way, is you always have to say goodbye. You always have to end with a goodbye. You have to end so the spirits go away. They do not follow you. They whatever. So when the girls were playing this and they were caught by the teacher actually broke the Ouija board in half, and they couldn't say goodbye. So that was a number one thing that happened. And then there's also, I heard, where if a Ouija board is ever broken, it doesn't matter if you had said goodbye, whatever spirits were contacted on that board are released. So if she had contacted her grandfather one time, or if she had opened it up and contacted many other spirits, who knows, because that was broken, it basically released everything. So if you play the Ouija board, do not break it, and always say goodbye at the end of your sessions, because that's not good.
Okay, so I won't rip the board in two.
Okay, all right.
And I'll be polite and say goodbye.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Maybe we might do it one day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
we might do it
one day.
Yeah, we'll
Maybe.
see. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's gonna light on fire. We should
Oh my gosh.
record it just in case it bursts into flames.
Yeah, no.
Right?
Yeah, it's so scary. It's so scary.
Oh my gosh. Is it okay to use a Ouija board that you get at like Toys R Us or something?
I know.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
And they make them pink now.
Yeah.
Oh
like,
yeah.
do you have to use a certain Ouija board? Does it have to be like made by a priestess somewhere in another country, or Toys R Us is fine?
I always use the
Mattel
Barker
makes
Brothers one, and I had crazy shit happen to me. So I don't think it matters. You know, Halloween Town down in Burbank, they actually have a little room where they have like antique stuff, and they actually have a really cool Ouija board in the back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really cool looking.
Yikes.
For sale.
We should steal it. Oh.
I wonder
We should buy it.
how many spirits they've contacted in that one.
I know,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Interesting.
So there you go. Estefania.
Yay.
Yay. Yeah.
Good job. I'm eating chocolate.
Yay.
I'm being so naughty.
This sounds good. I want some chocolate.
I've been
Yep.
so naughty this weekend. These are the Andes chocolate mint things.
Oh, those are the best.
I just needed it. Okay, no judgment.
All right.
Yum.
Nope.
All right.
Right.
Are you guys
All
ready
right.
for the
Badass story of the week. Woo!
Stop copying
Yes,
me,
we
Tima.
are. All right. I want to start off with something really simple, just an announcement. And I know that Red,
You're
like,
pregnant.
love this. Yeah, right.
I would
Focus,
cry for you,
focus
girl.
too.
Yeah.
What? What did you just say?
Focus too.
Say it again.
Hocus Pocus 2.
Oh.
I love Hocus
Yeah,
Pocus.
okay. Yeah.
I knew it. I knew you were gonna love that. Okay, I'm so excited for it. If you didn't know, like, wow.
Give me the
Mm,
information.
gonna
I'm
be
going to
great.
write it down.
I did not know. So
I don't have the release date yet, but I'll get it. Like, you can find it.
is it the same actresses?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm
Okay.
so excited.
Yeah.
I know. It's gonna be amazing.
Yay.
Oh,
It's amazing.
Can't wait. There's gonna be a lot of Halloween outfits this year, I'm sure.
I'm sure. I
Fun,
love
fun.
it. I love everything about it.
All right, so I want to talk about my this great badass. I actually have a couple badasses in this story, but I'm going to focus on the one here. So there's a high school senior from Buffalo, New York, named Anthony Quinn Jr. And he was noticing like all of the mess that was being left behind by protesters in the hometown whether they were leaving drink cups or whatnot, or, you know, whether there was riots and looting, whatever it was, he noticed that it was like causing a disruption, right? And he wanted to do something about it. So at 2:00 in the morning, he started cleaning his hometown of Buffalo, New York. And he started at 2 a.m. and he didn't stop for 10 straight hours. And he just cleaned and cleaned and cleaned. So later on, there was a cleanup crew that were arriving on this street on Bailey Avenue the next morning. When they got there, they were like super pleasantly surprised because Antonio had already done all the work that a whole cleanup crew was going to come in and do. The word of what he did, his good deed, got around fast. And when this other badass, Matt Block, heard about it, he said that he wasn't sure what he was going to do with his 2004 Mustang convertible. He loved it. He didn't want to just like sell it or get rid of it or whatever. He wanted it, you know, when you have a car and you feel like attached to it, you don't want to just get rid of it, right? Right. You have like a connection to it. But then his heart spoke to him and he decided that he was going to give this 2004 Mustang convertible to Antonio.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's so sweet.
So he got a car.
Lots of badasses. Lots of badasses.
A lot. There's more. So then a local insurance company heard about what Matt did for Antonio and said, you know what? We don't think Antonio should pay for insurance, for car insurance.
Oh my God. Oh, I love it.
He got the year of free car insurance on top of that. And then Madale College heard about what Antonio did. And they said, you know what, Antonio, you're an awesome person. You give with all of your heart. You're getting a full scholarship to Madale
College. What? Yes. Let this be a lesson to everybody. That if you put yourself out there, you do some good deeds, good karma. This is good karma.
Cool. That's so, you know, it's really kind of a little bit heartbreaking, but also like what a cute, beautiful little reminder. It was Antonio's mom passed away in 2018, and she used to drive a Mustang convertible. So when Antonio gave it to him, it just reminded him of his mom, and he broke down crying.
You guys, oh my heart.
He said he's so grateful for the gifts and everything. Above all, he just hopes that his actions have made his late mother proud.
Oh, stop. Oh my God, I love this so much. Yes, and I'm crying.
Yay, Dre, that was so good.
That is so good. I love all of that. Everything.
Yeah.
I love it.
He
That's a good one. He deserved it. Let's all do some more good deeds. Let's be like Antonio and all these badasses. Yeah. Oh, I'm fully crying. Oh my gosh. All right. This was good. I had a really messed up story that was a total bummer, but we all came back from that. So good job, you guys.
But then Dre made you cry again.
And then Dre made me cry.
But it was a good cry.
Like once a day. So
it was a good cry, so it was okay.
Yeah, I feel cleansed. All right. Are we all set?
I think we are.
Yay. 1, 2, 3. We do
what we want. It kind of sounded better.
All right, y'all. Have a good week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Handcuffs and Sage is hosted by Red, Timo, and Dre in a shitty guest room in Los Angeles.
Theme music is Leave Now by We Are Wasted. Cover art done by Megan Winchester.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Show us some love on iTunes. Be a badass and do what you want. Until next time.